We're talking about foods that get us in trouble and how important this is. Foods that get us in trouble and what it's all about. So we're gonna, I'm the Medical Medium, #1 New York Times best-selling author of the Medical Medium book series on healing people around the globe. Books are all over the globe, helping people heal. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about thyroid healing and the Epstein-Barr virus too. So I'm covering deep into the Epstein-Barr virus information no one's ever heard before, information that's in thyroid healing, plus some other little tidbits about it. But I'm going to go into foods too, foods that get us in trouble and why they get us in trouble, because it's so important. When you're sick and you're struggling and you're suffering with so many different symptoms and conditions, it's critical to know, you guys, what foods can make it worse. Not because of a theory, out there like avoid gluten because, inflammation, but that nobody knows anything about it, or avoid dairy products because of lactose intolerance or it's mucus forming. We're gonna go into like the real reasons, the true causes to why foods get us in trouble and how we stay sick and how that affects our lives and where that gets us in all of it. So this is really an important show, an episode, probably one of the most critical episodes. So we're gonna go into the Epstein-Barr virus is responsible for a lot of things. And this is a critical aspect of it because when you know what it's responsible for, then you can actually learn and how to heal. It's the most comprehensive book, Thyroid Healing, about the Epstein-Barr virus out there. This is a virus with over 60 varieties of mutations and strains. So what does that mean? That means it's not just one virus, one pathogen. That's what it means. It means that we have lots of one kind. See how it goes? So that's an important thing to know right there. Because what that means is it's hard to detect, hard to find, hard for doctors to see it, hard for blood work to even show it, all of the above. It also means that they're not on the radar of research and science. So when viruses mutate and change, they actually become a little different form of themselves, creating different illnesses, and they have different appetites towards foods. That's why what I was saying is foods that get us in trouble because bugs actually eat food. So we're going to cover all of this in detail, and and this is powerful information. You don't want to miss this. You want to stay on for this. This is going to be really important. So look, Epstein-Barr is responsible for a lot of symptoms and conditions: Hashimoto's, Graves', CFS, MS, hypothyroidism, all of it, eczema, psoriasis, vitiligo, anxiety, even depression, and symptoms like vertigo, tinnitus, brain fog, Pcos, endometriosis, and that's just a little bit of it. EBV is responsible for a lot of different things people are going through. So if you're saying to yourself, hey, wait a minute, I have balance issues, I have a little bit of vertigo, I have some tinnitus, I have popping in the ears, I have twitches and tingles and numbness, and I have fatigue that the doctor's not sure what it's about. They think it's my adrenals or they're not sure. Epstein-Barr's responsible for these and so much more, and that's why it's so important. Many people think I just believe EBV causes everything, and they take issue with that, and I completely understand. I completely understand, and it comes down to one thing. So when skeptics think that I'm all about Epstein-Barr and Epstein-Barr only, it comes down to one thing. Those critics haven't read the Medical Medium books. They haven't read the books. It's so important. And many people think I'm the celery juice guy, and that's what it is. So it's all about celery juice and celery juice only. By the way, okay, so I got my celery juice right here, and it's not a real big one today, but that's all right. So many people think I'm just the celery juice guy too, the guy that started the celery juice movement around the world. And sure, okay, that's true, but that's not what I just am. So what they don't understand is that Epstein-Barr is not just one virus creating people's sicknesses. It's the over 60 varieties and strains. And they haven't read the Medical Medium books to learn that information. So it's easy for a critic to just pop that out there and say, oh, he's all about Epstein-Barr. Well, they don't even know about the 60 varieties and strains and mutations. And so it's really important. See, each mutation does different things. It's a different beast. So every mutation is a different beast, causing different symptoms and conditions. And that's what's so important to know. This means that there's over 60 different pathogens under the label Epstein-Barr. So that's why not just one virus, not just one pathogen under the label Epstein-Barr. So, and each one has a different appetite. It likes to feed off of different foods. They all like to feed off of eggs, and I talked about that earlier. So I talked that with why eggs make you sick in the last YouTube, which you got to see, the last one. And I have an egg in front of me right here. But there's a lot of different varieties of Epstein-Barr. They feed off of different foods, and everybody has different varieties. That's how it works. And so, for example, some varieties of Epstein-Barr really love toxic heavy metals, so they like copper. So here's how it goes with eczema and psoriasis. And these, I discuss these in Thyroid Healing. I discuss all these different symptoms and conditions and illnesses in Thyroid Healing. If you don't have this book, get it and educate yourself and be able to protect yourself and your family. It's so important. So when a variety of Epstein-Barr virus likes copper, so that's toxic heavy metal that sits inside our liver, it actually consumes it, feeds off of it, releases it, and when it releases a powerful dermatoxin that floats through the bloodstream, unknown to research and science, floats through the bloodstream. It surfaces to the skin, and when it surfaces to the skin, the body tries to push it out, and that's what causes eczema and psoriasis, and that's one variety of Epstein-Barr. And so, what research and science loves to say is that your body's attacking itself, that your body's attacking its own skin, which is impossible. The body doesn't work like that. I can go into that a little bit more later. Some varieties of Epstein-Barr, you guys, likes mercury, and everybody has mercury in them. Everybody has certain levels of mercury, the toxic heavy metal mercury in them. This is why I love the heavy metal detox smoothie. So I'm not just all about the Epstein-Barr, all about celery juice. The heavy metal detox smoothie is critical if you want to heal. It's so important, and I want you to know that. So the medical medium heavy metal detox smoothie is so important, and I could talk about that a little bit later too. So when a virus like Epstein-Barr loves mercury, when it feeds off of it, it releases, instead of a dermatoxin so much, it releases a neurotoxin. So when it consumes the foods it likes, which I'm going into it, why foods get us in trouble, I'm going to go into that in a little bit. It consumes the foods it likes, releases it, eliminates it, goes to the bathroom like we go to the bathroom when we eat, okay? Viruses have to go to the bathroom. Pathogens have to go to the bathroom. And when it goes to the bathroom, it releases a potent, powerful neurotoxin. And that neurotoxin floats around in the bloodstream and wreaks havoc on what? It's neurotoxic. So it wreaks havoc on the nervous system, the central nervous system. Now, most of these Epstein-Barrs release a little bit of dermatoxins along with it if you have a little copper inside of you, if you have a little aluminum inside of you. And so you may get the combination of neurological symptoms like fatigue, which is a neurological symptom, or you may get fatigue and a little bit of rashing, which could be very mild eczema, or patches, rashes like lupus, like when people get diagnosed with lupus. Not just the butterfly rashes, but the different rashes. That's because you have the neurotoxins surfacing and the dermatoxin. So that variety of Epstein-Barr releases these, especially the neurotoxin. It gives you the fatigue. It gives you problems like that. You can get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, Lyme disease, lupus, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME. So that's what the virus does. So this is powerful information. This empowers you. This can take you out of literally the hell of suffering, this information, because it already has for millions of people globally for over 30 years. I've been doing this for 35 years, helping people get better with this information that comes from my source. So it's important to have this so you can actually move forward. This isn't about anything else besides you healing. It's critical to know that. So some varieties of Epstein-Barr virus like to feed off of cell tissue itself. So they like to feed off of cell tissue. So instead of just feeding off of a toxic heavy metal like mercury or aluminum, the virus likes to feed off of your cell tissue. So thyroid disorders, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, the inflammation that's caused inside the thyroid, and I talk about that really, really clearly in Thyroid Healing, okay? And what happens is that variety of virus feeds off of cells inside your thyroid, and it causes inflammation. See, it's not your body attacking itself like they want you to believe, because that disempowers you. I'm going to go into that a little later, how that body shames and disempowers and just really makes people feel like they're faulty, really makes people feel like they're worthless. So I'm going to go into how that works later on. So when a virus feeds off of cell tissue, in, like, for example, feeds off of your thyroid cell tissue, you can get the thyroid disorders, hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. You can get the beginning stages of hypothyroidism, and you could get the stages of nodules. You can get the stages of cysts, thyroid cancer. So that's one variety of Epstein-Barr. Many of them go to the thyroid. So many of them go to the thyroid and do different things in the thyroid. So the viruses have mutated over time. There's over 60 varieties, like I talked about before, but that's one type. And then you got the aluminum feeding viruses, which is the Epstein-Barr variety that loves aluminum. And guess where that goes to? Guess what happens when that virus has an aluminum desire, and it eats aluminum? And what happens there is you end up with vitiligo. You end up with the white spots, the discoloration, because here's how it works. So important to know this. And the virus feeds off of aluminum, which sits inside the liver. That's where all our toxic heavy metals go in. That's why I always say, hey, you guys, you got to get rid of your toxic heavy metals. It's so important, and it matters so much. That's why I want you to do that really high, the good spirulina I always talk about, all the good stuff that you need, and have the heavy metal detox smoothie and the wild blueberries and all of it. Because you got to get rid of the toxic heavy metals out of your liver. Because when aluminum is sitting inside the body and sitting inside the liver, you guys, what happens is that variety of Epstein-Barr loves to feed off of it, and when it eliminates it, goes to the bathroom and releases it, it floats around, it surfaces to the skin, and it kills the melanin, the pigment cells. It destroys that, and that's why you get the spots, the white spots everywhere. That's that variety of virus. So, these are some examples of foods that these different varieties of Epstein-Barr like to feed on. In a moment, I'm going to show you some other foods, and that's going to be a big one today too, a big part of today. So you want to stay on for this. You don't want to miss this. This is going to be really fun too. Look, we eat to stay alive. We have to stay alive or we die. Okay, that's how it works here. So does every single pathogen, every single microorganism on the planet. Living organism has to eat something. So when science and research keeps that all from you, and they don't tell you that they use mercury to keep these things alive in labs, that they feed all these bugs eggs, okay, like I said in Why Eggs Make You Sick. If you haven't seen that one, you got to go back to that one and look at that YouTube, when you can, that episode after this. But so because these bugs need food, so critical to know. Every single living microorganism, viruses and different varieties of viruses like different foods. This is advanced medical information straight from my source that public research and science is unaware of yet. And it's so important. So when I'm talking about what foods get us in trouble and how foods get us in trouble and all of that, when I talk about that later, it's advanced food information that isn't out there because no one knows. They're all playing guessing games and they don't know why foods really make you sick. So this is so great to know this information. Been delivering it for years and years. Okay, so viruses take different pathways. So I'm going to talk about the pathways where they go from the liver to the thyroid to the ovaries, different areas, okay? One variety of Epstein-Barr goes from the liver to the thyroid. So let's talk about that now. We're going to head into that. And then what's left of that virus goes to the ovaries and creates PCOS. So PCOS, a reproductive condition, okay, a cystic reproductive condition, is caused by Epstein-Barr. That's what creates a cyst. A cyst, a fluid-filled cyst, cannot be created on its own. It doesn't work like that. I know they want people to believe that it's the woman's body that's faulty, that something must be wrong with her, and then she's causing it. I know the medical system, big pharma, and whoever else wants women to believe that. But see, a fluid-filled cyst can't develop on its own. It doesn't work that way. There has to be a cause, and there is. The Epstein-Barr virus does go to the ovaries. It goes to the reproductive system. It causes a lot of reproductive problems. I'm going to talk about that a little later too. So then also, the Epstein-Barr virus sits inside the liver and it goes straight to the thyroid. It travels to the thyroid. It creates hypothyroidism later for women. And it can create it years later. Somebody could have a milder form of Epstein-Barr virus and it could create hypothyroidism years later. Somebody could have a much more aggressive variety of the 60 varieties and it could create problems even more aggressive, like all of a sudden, bam, you get the worst Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you're really sick, you're at the doctor's office, doctor's telling you it's your body attacking itself, it's listed under an autoimmune autoimmune condition when really you have a viral infection. And that's what it really is. Talking about thyroid healing too, incredible book to have. If you don't have it, you got to go to Amazon.com and get it, or go to the library and get it for free. I tell people, get it for free. Doesn't matter to me. I just want everybody to have the information and heal. So, okay. So let's talk about other things here. Well, another variety of Epstein-Barr will go to the thyroid, but it'll also stay in the liver. Most all varieties of Epstein-Barr do stay back into the liver a little bit, where they feed off of copper, like I said, they feed off of other pollutants inside the liver. The liver's a garbage dump. And that's why, I wrote the book, Liver Rescue, okay? That's why I wrote the book, Liver Rescue. The liver's a garbage dump. It harbors all these different toxins. So, and so these viruses like to stay back into the liver and the whole bit. And they like to feed off of copper to create eczema and psoriasis. Viruses, like the Epstein-Barr, love to create eye problems. They love to create floaters in the eyes. They even love to create glaucoma. That's one thing that happens. Epstein-Barr goes to breast tissue, creates breast cancer. Another variety of Epstein-Barr will cause lupus, will cause multiple sclerosis. Another variety will cause Lyme disease. Lyme disease basically Lyme disease is neurological Lyme. It's neurological condition. It's basically neurological fatigue and different tics and spasms and twitches and weak nervous systems, and like you feel like your legs are cement bags, and it could be listed under Lyme disease. A doctor would be like, whoa, you probably got Lyme disease. Another doctor might be like, whoa, you got a little bit of this, you got a little bit of that. Everybody gives a different diagnosis. But so let's go into like that as we can. And doctors are finally learning now, because of this information, that Lyme disease is viral. So we're going to cover that for a minute. If you guys got a second, I'm going to drink a little bit of this because I'm shooting out the information. Got a little bit of celery juice. I hope you're doing your celery juice. I hope you are. It's so important. Okay, so Lyme disease is no longer bacterial. Sure, the doctors will still call it bacterial. Some of them still think many of them still think it's still bacterial, but it was a bacterial theory is what it was. So all that bombardment of antibiotics to women, mostly women, and to men over the decades, the amount of antibiotic abuse and negligence over the decades. I mean, the Lyme trail is brutal. The Lyme past is brutal. It's unbelievable. It's still not much better, but because of the medical medium information, because it went worldwide in all the books around the globe, and people got wise, and they learned that Lyme disease was viral, it's all changing now. That's how cat's claw, the herb, is now being used in doctors' offices across the globe and around the country. That's from original medical medium information going back many years. And so there's a reason for that, because it was always viral. And I'm going to tell you something that's really interesting. If you're like, okay, there's no way, that's not what it says out there, he's wrong. Oh yeah? They secretly moved Lyme disease into the autoimmune disease category, okay? Now, in order to move Lyme disease into the autoimmune disease category, it can't be bacterial. That's how it works. The medical medium books and information has pushed the medical system into the direction of putting it into autoimmune. They wanted to classify that now because it protects them, is what it does. It also determines that they don't know the true cause, because autoimmune disease causes are all unknown by research and science. So Lyme disease was put into the autoimmune category. So that means they just decided, behind everybody's back basically, they just decided that bacteria is not the cause, that the cause is unknown for Lyme disease. So you got all these doctors and all these decades of work, and they're all been told it's bacteria, and you got the Lyme labs all kind of working with that. And if you'd say, well, why does the Lyme lab come up with this and that? The Lyme labs, they work on a basis of inflated inflammation. So they work on inflammation. So when they say you have Borrelia, and they say you have Bartonella, and they say you have Babesia, they don't see the Bartonella, they don't see the Babesia, they don't see the Borrelia. They just see inflammation in the system, just like an anti-nuclear antigen antibody test, just like C-reactive protein tests. They're all inflammation detecting tests. So the whole thing has been a scam and a sham for so long with Lyme disease, and they've been making billions because of it on antibiotics, because that's the whole point. It was to make billions and billions and billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars off of antibiotics for decades. And that's how it works. So Lyme disease was placed into the autoimmune category, which they know they don't have an answer now. That's how it works. But you got all these old dogs, meaning that have been doing it for so many years and pumping so many antibiotics in so many people for decades, and they just, they're already married to their system that they've been involved with, that was created by the theory to begin with, and it's hard to come out of that. But the younger doctors that want people to heal, they're learning now about this information. And some of the older doctors too, that have a lot of experience, are learning about it, and it pushed it into the different category. So it's so important to know this. Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, they're not superbugs. They can be killed off by antibiotics extremely easy. They're not superbugs. They're not like MRSA. MRSA's got a much higher rate of healing through antibiotics. Isn't that incredible? MRSA's a superbug, literally a superbug. But for some reason, MRSA can be healed with antibiotics. So why? Why can that be healed without the antibiotics, but yet Borrelia Bartonella can't? Because it does get killed off, because when you're viral, antibiotics do not stop viruses. So that's what happens. You got a whole wake of people suffering from Lyme disease, even today, right now, and getting Lyme disease diagnoses. And they were bombarded with antibiotics. That's why Lyme doctors now are doing less and less antibiotics in smaller amounts and smaller dosages and milder forms of it. And then they're bringing in supplements and all kinds of herbs and different things, because they know, they're learning, because the antibiotics wreaked havoc. It broke people down. It made them sicker for so many decades. I'm not against antibiotics. I'm not against antibiotics in the use they're needed for certain things. That's not what this is about. But for Lyme disease, this huge mistake was made. See, Lyme disease in the early 1970s, when it was discovered, there was a group of very smart, intelligent doctors and virologists that believed it was viral. But you can't make money back then in the 70s or the 80s, because there were no medications for viruses. When a doctor knew a diagnosis was viral, or they believed a diagnosis was viral, there was no answer. So no money was made ever, except for the doctor's appointment itself, but there were no drugs being sold. So they classified it as bacteria. So Big Pharma classified it as bacteria to make sure they can sell tremendous amounts of antibiotics. That's how the business runs. So so all these doctors were indoctrinated to believe it was bacteria. So they bombarded people for decades, made a wake of hell. And I mean, so many lives were lost over this. And it wasn't the doctor's fault. I mean, that's not what it is. The system creates this. Bacteria cannot cause neurological symptoms. I'm going to go into that for a little bit right here. Thank you for coming on my new YouTube channel, the whole bit, covering serious topics so you can learn and heal, talking about thyroid healing. If you don't have the book, go to Amazon.com and get it. You won't make a mistake getting that book. When you read it, you'll be blown away. I can't cover even a fraction of the information in that book. So let's go into the whole bit here of where we're heading now. Bacteria cannot cause neurological symptoms. Bacteria does not cause the aches and pains. It does not cause the tingles and numbness. It does not cause the ringing in the ears. It does not cause all the different neurological symptoms, the eye floaters, the twitches, the spasms, the burning pain all over the body, the neuropathy, burning pain on the feet, burning pain on the hands, all of that. Bacteria doesn't cause all of the neurological conditions, including that neurological fatigue, the eye floaters, like I said, the vertigo, the dizziness, the tinnitus, the severe anxiety. Bacteria can't cause severe anxiety. So important to know. They cannot create neurotoxins. See, this is how it works. Bacteria, when feeding off of food, can't release a neurotoxin. Only a virus can. So when bacteria eats the foods that I'm going to show you guys, if you guys just came on and everything and you're here right now, I can't wait to show you the foods I'm going to talk about, why foods get us in trouble, which foods get us in trouble. You won't believe it. You will be very happy about this episode. So when bacteria feeds off of foods that it likes, it can't release a potent neurotoxin. Remember what I was saying before, neurotoxin creates damage to the neurological system. It creates damage in a way where it hampers it down, it dampers it down, it brings it down, and you get fatigued, and your legs feel kind of heavy, and you feel fatigued. I slept all these hours last night, why am I still tired? I slept a zillion hours last night, why am I still tired? And that's what happens, where you're like, what's going on? And then you get diagnosed with a little bit of adrenal fatigue, then you get told your hormones are off because the doctors have no idea why you have fatigue. Then you think, well, loss of libido, fatigue, and all these other things, it must be my hormones, it must be something else. And that's what happens. And if the fatigue sticks around too long after they played around with all your different stuff, if it sticks around too long, you might finally get a Lyme disease diagnosis. You might get some kind of other diagnosis. Then all of a sudden they're looking for other things. So many women around the country, mostly women and men, have this fatigue, this neurological fatigue. And it's not bacteria. Bacteria can't create a neurotoxin which hampers and weakens the nervous system. You guys should watch this whole thing all over again. I'm not even halfway done here, but you gotta watch this whole episode all over again. The information is really intense, and I understand that. So the body aches and pains, the nerve pain all through the body, the fibromyalgia, the tics, the spasms, the twitches, these are all viral symptoms, you guys. And people suffer with it, and it breaks my heart to know people suffer that bad. They don't have answers. They've been to 10 neurologists. Even if you go to one neurologist, you go to your internist, you go to your GP, you go to one neurologist, it's just too much. You know, making appointments, having your life all, I've seen it with younger people. They're 20 years old, they're 19 years old, and their life is already about doctor's appointments. I mean, what kind of world are we in right now where science and research just doesn't have the backs of people with chronic illness? When there are answers. It's amazing, really. So, look, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, lupus, PCOS, reproductive problems, endometriosis, all these things that people go through, the hot flashes, the heart palpitations, so many different symptoms. It's based on viruses. It's based on viruses releasing poisons and causing problems. This is why so many people with Lyme disease get the thyroid test. I mean, their thyroid problem. Okay. One of the reasons why they pushed Lyme disease into the autoimmune category is because it was getting kind of suspicious too, with medical medium information going out there teaching people about the thyroid problem being viral and the thyroid problem being Epstein-Barr, because that information came from the medical medium information. So that came from this source only, that your thyroid problem and your Hashimoto's thyroiditis is caused by Epstein-Barr. And now you'll see data out there, because what they do is, they don't want the medical medium getting all the credit all the time. So then they try to put articles out there as if it came from somewhere else. But this was way before all of that. I mean, it's well documented to be way before all of that. And what happens is the Epstein-Barr virus that causes thyroid problems, when they noticed everybody with Lyme disease was getting thyroid problems. So that was another thing. So doctors are like scratching their head. They're like, well, you know what? I mean, everybody has the thyroid problems. Everybody has these other issues. All the Lyme people have fibromyalgia. So they're just starting to believe, wait a minute, we're off here, because bacteria doesn't cause any of that. So it's viral. So it's so important to know these things. That's why a majority of people have not gotten better. That's why a majority of people have not gotten better on antibiotics. When I mean majority, I mean the majority in antibiotic treatments for Lyme disease. That's why they haven't gotten better, because it's viral. So I'm just trying to spell it out for you, so you're empowered, you have the information, you have the strength, all of it. And so many have suffered terribly. I mean, it's devastating. They lost their lives, they lost their livelihoods, their careers, all these different things people suffered with, and they're going through that now, even when they don't get a Lyme disease diagnosis. And you just got fatigue and you're broken down. I've seen people lose their relationships. I've seen so many women lose their relationships, their fiancés and their husbands, and so much going on, because their husband's like, well, scratching their head, well, wait a minute, did I buy into this? What is this Hashimoto's thyroiditis? Because you know how guys are. I mean, they're like, what is this Hashimoto's thyroiditis? What is this? What are these symptoms? Come on, get out of bed. Let's get moving. What do you mean you're tired and you can't function? I've seen people literally in tears, over the years, crying to doctors that are friends of mine, the doctors telling me about these stories. And I've heard it myself too over the years. It's just unbelievable how it works. So the bottom line is Lyme disease is not what people think it is. Let's go into another category here. Let's go into another talk. Everybody has at least one EBV who's sick. Anybody who's sick doesn't just have one variety. It's easy to get two varieties. It's easy to get more. It all depends on what's happening in your life. That's why you want to arm yourself, know the truth, know how to heal, know what to do, and what you need to do to heal. It's so important. So listen, on this topic today and everything else, we're going to talk about the foods that get us in trouble, what that means, how that gets us in trouble, what happens, and I'm talking about the Epstein-Barr virus, talking about this thyroid healing book, the whole bit. So we're going into it. Almost every person on the planet has one variety of Epstein-Barr. One variety of Epstein-Barr. It lives in the organs. It lives in the liver and the organs, going undetected by tests and undiagnosed from doctors for years. This information I am sharing with you is still unknown to medical research and science. Doctors do not know where to look for Epstein-Barr. It's hard. Tests cannot detect EBV in the liver or organs. There's no test that can detect Epstein-Barr in your liver or organs. That's how it works. And they do have tests for EBV, but not in the liver and organs. See, doctors are looking for symptoms and linking it to EBV now because of the medical medium information. They're looking for symptoms. Okay, here's how it worked in the old days with Epstein-Barr. Because some of you might say, well, you didn't come up with the Epstein-Barr diagnosis or to figure out like the Epstein-Barr. No, I didn't. Anthony Epstein, that doctor, okay, that genius found that virus. Okay, he did. But see, that virus has only contributed to one thing back in the day called Lyme disease. That's what it was contributed to. Malaise, a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of listlessness for a little bit in your life, and that's it. But that's not what it causes. It causes that times 100 in everybody. That's how it works. So here's the thing. Doctors I worked with over the decades, I helped them troubleshoot their cases. So I spent years and years and years helping out doctors with their troubleshooting cases, because doctors have compassion and they want information no matter what, because when they realize after they come out of medical school, and I talk to doctors all the time about this, and the information isn't there, what they need, why people are filing in with all these symptoms and conditions, they want more and want more and want more, because they got into the medical industry to get people better. So fatigue and listlessness and malaise of the old days of Epstein-Barr, that's not how it works. Epstein-Barr causes so much more. Look, I expanded the Epstein-Barr information in thyroid healing in this book. Go to Amazon.com or go to the library and get it for free. This is the Epstein-Barr book of all time, Thyroid Healing, Medical Medium series. Now, doctors around the world are using this book. So right here, this book is in their practice around the world. And when people find a doctor that's using that book, it's like a reprieve. It's like, what? So my body's not destroying itself? So my body's not destroying the thyroid? I actually can heal? This is a virus and we can work on trying to get some antiviral protocols going? And something changes in the person. They know they can heal. So important to know. So look, let's talk about some other thing. Why are there so many Epstein-Barr mutations? How did this happen, and how did these varieties of Epstein-Barr get into our bodies? So many people, everybody has one variety, okay, around the world basically. But many of us have two varieties, three varieties. Epstein-Barr was raised in labs long ago, and I'm going to go into a big food thing pretty soon. I got a whole bunch of foods here. I'm going to talk about what foods get us in trouble, so you've got to stay on for that. Here's an egg. That's a food that gets us in trouble. You saw, some of you saw the why eggs make us sick. If you haven't, go back to that one after this one. Watch that YouTube. Learn how to heal. So Epstein-Barr was raised in labs on chicken eggs. That was one of the fuel sources. So chicken eggs, the hormones inside chicken eggs, the natural occurring ones. I'm not talking about the added ones that the industries do. Not, free range, organic, whatever, the natural occurring hormones, okay? And the natural occurring proteins fed viruses raised in the labs. That's what they did, okay? Somehow, these viruses escaped. They were raised in labs and they escaped to the public. So, we could use our imagination on that. Many of you like to think, how could that have happened? But they did, and it happened. The original Epstein-Barr existed before this. The old Epstein-Barr, before the 60 mutations, the original Epstein-Barr existed well before this. And that was it was so less aggressive. It wasn't problematic, you guys. But since that, newer varieties that are severe and potent, very strong, powerful and neurotoxic have submerged or emerged. These strains have mutated over the decades, and now we're dealing with the over 60 varieties. I just want to cover that a little deeper. And they're going to continue to mutate and grow as the years move on. Why do you think we have so much chronic illness around the world, literally at a pace no one's ever seen before? When I talk to doctors, they're like, even with all of the health-minded information and no gluten and the this and the that and all the supplements out there and the store shelves packed with supplements, it's rising like never before. And so because the viruses are tough, they're tough to deal with, and they're passing from person to person. So let's talk about how that's done. Relationships, body fluids, that's how EBVs pass around a lot. That's a big one. So I'm just saying, so you wanna be careful along the way as you're meeting people and everything else, because bodily fluids, that can happen. And okay, if it happens, it happens. And you get the Epstein-Barr and you're sick 2 years later or 3 years later, you work on healing it and you work on healing it, getting rid of it and moving forward with your life. Bottom line, restaurants is a big place too. Restaurants, now I'm not trying to rip down restaurants. The industry's it's an industry, and to serve food and make people happy. So, and a lot of people have their heart and soul in their restaurants, but restaurants are also a place. It's forks, utensils that aren't washed or sterilized properly. It's drinking glasses that aren't washed or sterilized properly. If you got lipstick on a glass that wasn't wiped off completely, and it's still there, it can contain and hold the Epstein-Barr virus within the lipstick. So if you got a coffee cup and you got some old lipstick on it that didn't kind of scrub off, in that diner or somewhere or that place, that holds and contains an Epstein-Barr virus very easily. This is how they're crossed. I'm not trying to make you phobic about it. I'm not trying to make you feel like you can't ever eat out. That's not it. I'm just letting you know it's easy to get the Epstein-Barr virus. Sharing plates of foods too, sharing plates of foods, drinking down to somebody's glass and everything. I was with a friend and I was out at a restaurant and I didn't finish the food I had on my plate. And I was out with a few friends, and one of the friends grabbed my plate and they were really hungry, and I go, "What are you doing?" And they're just finishing it off. And then, "What are you doing?" And they go, "Well, with you, I'm not worried about it." And they go, "With you, I'm not worried about it." But it's easy to actually get something passed, from one person to another, because that's how it's done. Bodily fluids, that's how the bug gets around. Public bathrooms, that's another way. This is important information. It all sounds innocent, but the door handles on public bathrooms, put paper on the seat, whatever you do. You just should put paper on the seat, that's one thing. Here's a tip in the public bathrooms to try not to get things is you always have some handy wipes in public bathrooms, washing your hands at the sink. Everybody else does, just kind of like everybody else just went to the bathroom. Now they're at the sink touching everything. Well, what I like to do is keep some handy wipes on me. I think that's actually a better option. But the other thing too, with the public bathroom thing, that's one way that's really popular with transmitting, with actually getting the Epstein-Barr virus, is you want to, in a public bathroom, flush the toilet before you even start going to the bathroom. Even if it looks like it was flushed before, just give it a flush. So whatever remembrances could go in there and hold it, and throw some paper on the seat. Yeah, it sounds silly to a lot of you. A lot of you don't care, and I get it, and I have respect for you 100%. But that's what I do, okay? That's what the medical medium does, and he does it for a reason, a good reason. So let's go into the 4 stages of Epstein-Barr, and we're almost to the food part too, which is gonna be fun. Let's go into 4 stages of Epstein-Barr. Epstein-Barr's 4 stages. Research and science is unaware of it completely. Doctors are aware of it now because of the medical medium information. Thyroid Healing book. Make sure you get it. Go to Amazon.com. Make sure you have that book. I can't cover a fraction of that book. It's not even possible. So stage 1, the early stage, you get Epstein-Barr and it incubates. It sits in you. That's one of the stages. You can get it passed down from parents. You can get your Epstein-Barr passed down from parents. You can get it from other family members too. You can get it from other family members. And so it's important to know that, meaning just living in the house. Say you got brothers and sisters and and they get it somewhere out there and they bring it back and everybody's sharing food and sharing this and sharing that, and absolutely. So it's so easy to get different varieties. But the early stage, but what happens is it sits in the body's person. It sits in the bloodstream. Sorry about that. Sits in the bloodstream and it lays dormant. So that's what it does. That's the first stage. You pick it up somewhere, you get it in bodily fluids, you get it at a restaurant, you get it in a relationship, and now it's sitting in there incubating. That's what it does. But things can happen in life. You can be under a lot of stress. You can go through a lot. You can go through something in your life that's very difficult, that causes your immune system to weaken. So it could be a loss, it could be a betrayal, it could be trust breakage, it could be somebody stabbing you in the back, it could be a relationship that went wrong, it could be somebody broke up with you, it could be maybe you're just a miserable person because you're just been through so much, whatever it is that's going on, and you've had a hard time and you've had a hard life, or whatever the hardship is, even if it's not that hard to one person, but it could be hard to you. It could be a big deal to you. And people go through so many different things, and they take things to heart in personal ways that another person might not. And that's everybody's right to feel and have their emotions and all that. But heartbreak and betrayal, all of that is painful, can weaken the immune system. So if you have that incubating Epstein-Barr that you caught somewhere, and it's just been sitting in your system for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 months, a month, and then you go through some adrenal stress, you go through some fight or flight, you get some heartbreak, you get some betrayal, your immune system drops down a little bit, it looks for this. And then there's the poor diet. The poor diet. We're going into that right now. Let's talk about foods and the whole bit a little bit. Why someone can eat gluten or dairy or corn and not have a problem and be fine, when someone else can eat that and get really sick, or it makes them sicker over time, whether they know it or not, with their symptoms and conditions. So let's go into foods and food talk. Hope everybody's doing good. I got my celery juice right here. Heading into a new part of this, the next part of this. I see a lot of comments, and I really appreciate that because all that's good. So start with right here. So I got some milk right here, all right? Now, they're all good companies. Every company I'm showing right here, it's all good companies, but it's not about that, so I'm just covering labels. And, I'm not ripping down any brands or anything, of course. I'm supportive of everybody trying to survive out there in the world. But milk is actually a problem, just so you know. So I'm going to let you know, milk feeds the Epstein-Barr virus. It does. And what happens is people think lactose intolerance. They think, wait a minute, lactose intolerance is my problem. That's why I can't drink milk. That's why I have to stay away from milk. But that's a theory. So lactose intolerance is an actual theory, just so you know. What's really happening is the Epstein-Barr virus feeds off of lactose. It feeds off of proteins in milk. It feeds off of sugars in milk. So it's really important to know. There's also natural occurring hormones in organic milk and really good milk, high quality, pasture raised, and so forth. And if somebody's heart is in creating the best milk out there, or the best product that I'm going to show, I support them in that sense, because their heart's in it, they're creating good stuff. But I'm talking about sickness and the Epstein-Barr virus. I'm talking about what happens when you have the virus in you, it's incubating, it's sitting in you, and what happens, okay? So when you're drinking milk, see, none of the other diet systems that say stay away from milk, if there's one that says stay away from milk, knows why people get sick, and they're just playing guessing games. That's not what this is. I'm going to teach you how you get sick when you're drinking these things, or when you're eating certain foods, so you're really empowered. So you have the original information, the source that started basically this kind of stuff going back 35 plus years ago. So it's so important to know. Bugs love to feed off of lactose, protein, and natural hormones, occurring hormones in milk. So, and milk, well, you'll hear out there, oh, it's mucus forming. You'll hear from the different diet belief systems out there, well, it's mucus forming, stay away. Why is it mucus forming? Nobody knows why it's mucus forming. They just say stay away from dairy, it's mucus forming. You'll hear that all the time in all the different diet belief systems and all that. But what they don't know is it's mucus forming because it's feeding viruses and pathogens of all kinds. That's what happens with this kind of thing. When you're doing dairy products, you're feeding something. When you feed something, it creates mucus. This is why so many people can drink milk and eat cheese and eat other things and not have mucus. It's also why people can also eat gluten. They can use dairy. They can do whatever they want, and they don't get sick. And they seem okay. Someone else drinks some dairy, they're in the bathroom because a bug fed off of the lactose, released it, created inflammation, and now you're sitting in the bathroom with IBS because of a pathogen, not because of a food, because of a pathogen. This is why somebody else can eat the food and not have that. See how important it is to know these things? The power of that can really free you in a lot of different ways. It's not that you have a faulty body. It's not that you have an enzyme theory. There's a theory that an enzyme you don't have in order to actually have dairy products. That's a theory because they don't know what causes illness still. Science research has no idea. And science research knows nothing about food. They don't know nothing about food when you drink it or consume it or eat it and it enters in the stomach. You think there's an actual test or a machine that can determine when you ate something, what's happening is scrambling through the body and the body's breaking it apart or what's going on? They don't have anything in science at all, but there's nothing they have. They just have theory and guesses. And so it's so important to know this. So when it comes down to it, so that's the milk. When it comes down to it, and then we got some cheese right here, okay? Same thing with cheese. Now remember, there's also fat in milk and there's also fat in cheese. There's fat in dairy. What the fat does is it strengthens the virus more. So it strengthens pathogens more. It strengthens Epstein-Barr more. So when you're eating the cheese, you're putting all that fat inside of you. When your blood gets filled with too much fat inside, and I've been saying this for decades and decades, when your blood gets so filled with fat, your oxygen levels drop. What do you need to stop Epstein-Barr? Not just your immune system, but you need oxygen in your bloodstream. The higher fat content in your bloodstream pushes out and basically hampers down oxygen levels inside the bloodstream. So those oxygen levels are how we fight and battle Epstein-Barr, is how it works. So, the bottom line is when you have Epstein-Barr incubating in you, getting ready to fire up and start, and you're eliminating your oxygen levels because you're bombarding your liver with all this fat intake. You got the dairy products, even if it's good dairy, even if you're having it once a week, it still can get you in trouble. Even if you're drinking milk and just your coffee or whatever you're doing, it still can get you in trouble. But these are the things, these high-fat dairy products or even low-fat dairy products still can feed the Epstein-Barr for what they have in it. So here's an example right here. Some feta cheese, that's another cheese too. Because some people say, well, I eat feta cheese, that's much better, it's lighter, I can have it on my salad, I can have it, still will feed Epstein-Barr virus. And it'll still go off after the hormones in the best feta cheese possible, in the best cheddar cheese, in the best Swiss cheese, and so forth. So you have to know that this is why we get sick from foods. This is why we don't do good with food. So you could be somebody that does great with these foods for a little while, and all of a sudden you start getting acne, and you're like, what's going on? And you start getting acne, you start getting something else. They'll feed any pathogen. Like acne is caused by Streptococcus. It's caused by that bacteria, but this will feed any pathogen, everybody. So you need to know that, and that's how it works. So I'm going to show you some more foods too in a second. So I just want to cover that a little bit. So when you're eating cheese, there's hormones in that cheese naturally occurring, even if it's free range or organic. So I know so many of you are like, well, what if it's organic? What if it's pasture raised? What if it's this? I'm letting you know the natural occurring hormones and the proteins, okay, and like the sugar, the lactose, is going to feed any pathogen possible. So whatever you got incubating in you, if you have strep sitting in you from when you had strep throat as a child, if you have an Epstein-Barr incubating or an Epstein-Barr that's not incubating, that thing's been causing you pain and suffering or symptoms and conditions or anxiety and fibromyalgia and aches and pains and fatigue and foggy head and brain fog and all that, if you have all that going on, absolutely, you got to get rid of these foods. This is why foods will get you in trouble. But you're not going to hear anywhere else or from any other source of why they get you in trouble. Besides some theories, maybe you're lactose intolerant. Well, that's a great guessing game. I mean, they don't even have a way to tell. It's impossible, literally. And so that's how it works. So we walk around without knowing that we actually are viral. And we actually are getting sicker as the years come on. And look, if you're indestructible and you're in that age right now, age bracket, and you feel like, nothing's really happening to you, and you can just get in the gym and exercise, and this stuff's crazy, I'm staying away from gluten, I'm staying away from this anyway, I'm all fine. But if you think that if you're untouchable, you're wrong, because every single person is getting a symptom, no matter what, along the way at some time in their life, or symptoms, or sickness, or disease. It's just the way it's heading. There's no way around it unless you know what to do. Empower yourself, heal the whole bit. Get this from the library for free. Go to Amazon.com and get a copy. It's not expensive. So important. So here's how it works. Bugs feed off of these things. And here's butter right here, okay? So I got some butter. It's high quality butter, all right? So I'm not shaming the companies that make this food, but all dairy feeds bugs and pathogens. And dairy puts that high fat and burns the liver and beats it down so pathogens can thrive like Epstein-Barr inside the liver. And if you have more than one Epstein-Barr virus, if you have more than one variety and it's sitting inside the liver and it's sitting there eating and thriving off of those dairy products, over time, you're going to get the hot flashes, the heart palpitations, you're going to get the sluggish liver, you're going to get the weight gain down the road, down the years, you're going to get all these different things. The liver can't help us when it's overburdened with too much fat and it's loaded up with poisons, because the liver is the garbage dump. And so when you've got pathogens, when you got sickness, when you have all these different symptoms, you've got a couple of different viruses inside the liver, creating your fibromyalgia, lupus, your eczema, your psoriasis, all these different conditions, your anxiety, your thyroid disorders, all of it, then you can't detox. You can't cleanse and you can't detox. Now, it's so important to know. Listen, it's like the lemon water thing, right? You've heard of lemon water by now, okay? See, medical medium information did not create lemon water. People have been putting lemon in their water for centuries. They've been putting lemon in their water for centuries. They've been putting lemon in their tea. But the information that I did bring to everybody through my source, okay, was that when you use lemon water in the morning, it flushes the liver. That comes from medical medium information. That's the original source. And it's been out there for years now. And so there's a reason why you want to flush your liver with lemon. You want to squeeze lemon in water and drink it. There's a reason for that. Because it flushes the liver. It flushes out the poisons in the morning, and that's the original medical medium information. So if you ever heard that and everybody's been squeezing lemon to flush out their liver or flush out their toxins, that comes from medical medium information. And I noticed it's gone around the world. Doctors tell me all the time, thank God you told me that 15, 20 years ago. Thank God you put it in all your books, because it's really helping a lot of my patients. I hear that all the time. And somebody might say, well, hey, you didn't start lemon water. No, of course not. People have been lemon in water or lemon in their tea long before I existed and long before you existed. But that wasn't to flush out the liver. Nobody knew about that part. So now people are doing their large lemon waters in the morning. And I'm so glad you guys are doing it too. Because if you're on the high fat diets and you're putting, this should not be consumed in your diet. If you've got symptoms, conditions, issues happening, if you got acne, whatever it is, bugs will feed on the natural occurring hormones in here. Bugs will feed on the sugars in here. Bugs will actually grow because of the amount of fat in here that's naturally occurring. So it's really important to know these things. So that's butter. Butter will get you in trouble. Butter doesn't make you strong. Butter doesn't make you indestructible. Butter just feeds viruses along the way. So you get your Lyme disease diagnosis when you're 52 years old. Or you get your Hashimoto's thyroiditis diagnosis when you're 32. Or you get some symptoms, or you get more acne along the way, and you're going to doctor and you still don't know why. And you get off of gluten and you get off a couple of foods and your acne starts getting a little bit better, but then it comes back again. And then they say, well, it's your hormones. And so it's so important to know what foods to stay away from. Let's cover more foods. This is fun. So we got some kefir right here. So it's kefir, all right? Now, people will say, well, what about kefir? Kefir's good for me. Kefir's got the probiotics in it, the whole bit, kefir. What the kefir is going to do, it's going to do a lot more harm for you than it's going to do good for you. Critical to understand, okay? Because it's still going to feed any virus or pathogen in your body. And yes, it's better than milk in a way, but it's still going to get you sick down the road. That's how it works. So there's the kefir. That's something to know. So I showed you the milk. I got some more foods on the way too that I'm going to show you that are really important. So sour cream. It's another one too. So many people do sour cream. That's one right there. Sour cream. People say, well, that's different. You can do that. It's a different kind of dairy. I can do a little lump of sour cream. And that's, but it gets you in trouble too. It feeds all the bugs and everything like that. So let's talk about some other stuff. So let's talk about, this smells good though. It's a baguette, right? Who doesn't like a baguette? It's pretty fresh too. So, all right. So the whole thing with wheat gluten. So everybody knows, hey, wheat, gluten, celiac, problems people have allergies to gluten, the protein. So we know all about that. But what no one knows is that Why does everybody suffer when they have gluten? Not everybody, but a lot of people do, whether they know it or not. And when they remove it and they realize it was the gluten, that's what I mean, because a lot of people don't know it. How come? Because gluten feeds pathogens. See, that information wasn't out there until the medical medium information. Now, doctors are actually putting it out there now. Recently, there's been some doctors that they have books out there. I have a feeling they don't like the fact that, you know, millions of medical medium books have gotten all around the world and in doctors' offices. I think it does hurt because, look, everybody knows I'm not a doctor. Everybody knows that. And I've never said I was a doctor, but it does hurt, I think, the ego in a lot of people. And so, and they know the information is solid. And so they end up start saying, well, no, I knew about, you know, pathogens feeding off of gluten. Well, yeah, well, no one knew, and it never existed before the medical medium information. And so you need to know that gluten feeds Epstein-Barr virus, but it feeds all pathogens, and that's where the problem lies. Why do you think you can be 80 years old and eat all the gluten you want and never have a problem? You know how many grandparents that can eat all the gluten they want and they don't understand why their 16-year-old granddaughter can't have gluten? Because the 16-year-old granddaughter is dealing with different varieties of strep, which I'm going to talk about, a streptococcus, or they're dealing with an Epstein-Barr, or they're dealing with some other type of pathogen that the grandparents don't have or didn't have. It's the same thing. It's like, why do you think young people can't eat gluten, but yet so many older people can? Because the change of the times, the different varieties of viruses, the times are changing, the mutations, the fact that they're getting everywhere now, the fact that the older generation had the older varieties, and many of them had no varieties. So you get a 90-year-old that still can go and eat the gluten and so forth. And what do they usually get? They just usually get the heart disease, because the heart disease is caused by all the other poor foods and the standard American diets and all that stuff. They usually get other things, but they don't get all the different symptoms and conditions and neurological symptoms that these younger people, that all you guys and so many people that could even be watching this, that are getting. Because the gluten feeds the Epstein-Barr virus. It feeds the pathogens. I'm talking about thyroid healing here. You might want to get this book, Amazon.com. I can't even touch all the information that's in here. Let's go into something else here. So here we are. Here we got pasta, right? So we got some pasta. So that's another one too. Gluten. So that's where we get in trouble. So you got the pasta, you got the gluten, but so many people can eat pasta. You know, I was with somebody and they're just like, I was with a really older friend who's a retired doctor, and he's 79 years old, and I'm out with him. And we're at a place and we're getting some tea and stuff. He gets a pasta dish, and it's just straight out pasta. It's got eggs in it, it's got wheat, the whole bit, and he's enjoying himself. And, you know, and he can, but someone else can't. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason for that. That's how it works. I'm trying to give you the rundown of how viruses work, on how pathogen works. And then you got the corn chips right there. You got the corn chips. So corn feeds viruses, it feeds bacteria. You have to know this. This is why look, corn used to be a perfect food, a life-saving food. It used to be an unbelievable food. Wheat was actually a good food a long time ago. Corn was actually a good food. This is the corn tortilla. This is actually a fun one, right? Corn tortilla. So if anybody just logged on, it's foods, why we get in trouble with certain foods. I'm talking about the Epstein-Barr virus. I'm talking about sickness. I'm talking about all these different symptoms and conditions people are going through. All the struggles they're going through. You want to stay on for this. I'm talking about thyroid healing, my book. So the bottom line is, corn will feed pathogens though. See, these foods were ruined on us. They were, like the eggs, okay? So we got the eggs here, the eggs. It's not your fault that this food, that was a survival food, that people actually needed and used, and it was an important food. It's not your fault they took it, they raised bugs in labs, and they let the bugs out. And that's why sickness has developed to the degree it has, and it's exploded to the degree it has, and how young people are sick with so many symptoms and conditions, okay? This is why. So it's not your fault, okay? It's not my fault. I'm not trying to be the food police here. They ruined the food, not me. I mean, if they didn't ruin it, I'd probably be showing up some of these foods in the whole bit. And then I want to talk about this food for a little bit right here. So there's that one. You guys, is this fun? I hope you're having some fun. I mean, there's a lot of information. It's really intense. You want to watch this whole thing back again. If you just hopped on, you want to watch this from the start. There's no question. It's a powerful, powerful episode to actually help you heal. This food is an interesting food. This is bacon. Now, this is what's interesting here. This won't feed viruses, but you're going to think, hey, I could eat bacon now. No. No, don't eat bacon. Pork won't feed the Epstein-Barr virus. Okay, so see, it's not about, hey, is he vegan? Is he not? Is he about plant-based? Is he paleo? Is he anti-AIP? Is he blood type? What is he? I don't subscribe to a belief system because they're all wrong. They're all wrong in so many ways. Every last one of them. Even the vegan diets don't even have it right. Even the vegetarian diets, even all the different ones, the paleo diets, because they don't know what causes illness. See, I'm not in the food wars. I don't fight over the little stuff. I talk about the real stuff in the food wars, okay? So, because what they're doing out there, they're kept busy, like the vegans are throwing, fake science at the paleos are throwing fake science at the vegans because it's all paid for, they don't realize it. And everybody's throwing all this stuff back and forth, and then you have, diets like the AIP and all these other different diets, and it keeps on going. But none of those diets know what causes illness. They don't know about what you're learning here. They don't. They don't know about the Epstein-Barr virus and how it works and how it feeds and what foods it feeds on. And it's sad because of that, they flip-flop. Everybody's playing guessing games, and the vegans get scared and they run to the paleos again and they start eating animal products or starting to eat eggs or whatever it is, and it's sad. And then the paleos, they all get scared. They don't know what they're eating. They run to veganism and they run there and they're plant-based. And nobody realizes it. And so everybody's confused and nobody really knows what's going on, and all these different diets are made and everybody's trying to figure it out. And it's sad because we're covering it now. We're talking about Epstein-Barr, what it feeds off of. Now let's talk about bacon. Bacon doesn't feed Epstein-Barr. It doesn't feed viruses. But you would think, hey, if Anthony's saying that, then hey, maybe it's good to eat. No, it's not, and I'll tell you why. Bacon burdens the liver. It kills the liver and pancreas. And that's not good if you have Epstein-Barr. That's not good if you have a virus that's giving you aches and pains, tingles and numbness, ringing in the ears, tinnitus, vertigo. Even if you have past bouts of it, but you don't have it now, that means you got the Epstein-Barr in the system. And so hot flashes, heart palpitations, thyroid disorders of all kinds, all the different diagnoses I talked about, Lyme disease. If you have the Epstein-Barr or more than one Epstein-Barr in your system, what can happen is if you're eating the bacon, you're bombarding your liver with so much fat that it can't do its job. It can't even hold up to its own immune system, the liver's own immune system, which I talk about in the Medical Medium book series. This is Thyroid Healing Today, though. It's important to know. And what happens is, with all that fat in burdening your blood system, depleting your blood of oxygen, like I was talking about earlier, like the dairy products, where your oxygen levels are depleting and dropping down, okay? And the fat's burdening your liver and it's burdening your pancreas. You can't defend yourself against the Epstein-Barr, so it grows and proliferates. It actually expands and grows over time. It can speed your process up to getting sick down the road. That's what it can do. So that's what happens when you eat a food that doesn't feed the virus, but yet hurts you in another way. So important to understand. So we covered a few foods right now. Okay. Here's a really big part right here. You have to learn about illness because you can't blame yourself. You can't blame your body. You can't blame your body being faulty, that you created it. So here's the thing that's happening now, you guys. And this is I feel like this is the worst. What's happening is the industries, big pharma, the medical industries, all the industries now, including the alternative industry, all bought into something. They bought into the body attacking itself. They bought into the body the theory that the body is attacking itself, or the theory that genes are behind your condition. These are theories. They're not proven. And that's the theory of your body attacking itself, like in celiac, like in autoimmune. See, autoimmune means they don't know the cause. So they say, you're the cause. That's how it works. In autoimmune diseases of all kinds, eczema, psoriasis, and celiac, any kind of autoimmune disease, doesn't matter what it is, they believe that you're the cause. You see how it's been flipped? That's how it's done. They believe your body's attacking itself. So here you are going to doctor, here you are 20 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old or whatever it is, you're going to doctor, and you're like, okay, I'm trying a different diet now, I'm trying a new AIP diet, no, I'm trying a new this diet, a new FODMAP diet, or do whatever it is. And you're doing like, you're trying a new thing every minute, and you're trying, oh, I'm going to this alternative practitioner, and they say get rid of this, and I'm trying to this, and they say this. You have to know something. They all believe your body's attacking itself, that you have an autoimmune condition if they diagnose you with that autoimmune, or been told, or you've been told that's what it is, or whatever, whether it's eczema, psoriasis, and so forth. And that puts the blame on you. The system's been setting us up and setting women up for a reason. I'm going to go into that a little bit. It's such an important episode right here. It sets women up for disempowerment. That's how you keep women weak. That's how you break them down, and you beat them down, and you break their spirits. This is how it's done, okay? Because there are real reasons why women are suffering and they're sick, and men too, but there's real reasons. There's the Epstein-Barr virus wreaking havoc. There's other viruses too. I'm going to go into all the different viruses and so forth. There's real reasons why they're sick. The system created the situation on this theory that there's an autoantibody discovered back in the 1950s that's responsible for the body turning on itself. First of all, it's impossible. Look at technology in 1950, okay? Trust me, medicine in 1950 was the Dark Ages. Dark Ages, the scariest thing you ever want to know. How do I know? I talked to plenty of people. I talked to plenty of doctors from the yesteryear. It was a nightmare, okay? Testing and medical testing and understanding of the body and everything was the Dark Ages in 1948, 1949, okay? And so it's remedial at best. I mean, so you need to know how it works. So here's the deal. When it comes down to the theory of, hey, it's autoimmune, your body's attacking itself, that was a theory designed because people were streaming into doctors' offices. Nobody knew what made them sick. Women were filing in to doctors' offices all across the globe. I talked to a doctor, a really old doctor who had a practice back then. He's retired. Really old doctor had a practice back then. And he said, it was like something they've never seen before. And they were shoved by the medical industry, this theory of the body attacking itself as being the blame. And doctors knew it couldn't be possible. They knew the body wasn't attacking itself. But they had to be trained that from there on out in the medical universities and the medical schools. So what happens is it's ultimate disempowerment. It's body shaming. It's body shaming is what it's doing. So I'm going to talk to you about how it works, okay? About a few other things with that. So it's not genetics. It's not the autoimmune theory of the body attacking itself that's messing people up. It's not you creating it either, okay? It's not that. What happens is we become deficient over time. We're not getting the right foods in us. We're not getting the things we need. Our immune system is weakened due to stress, due to other problems, heartbreak and so forth, and all kinds of things. Poor diet occurs too as well. So you got the bacon in there and you're knocking out the oxygen, so there's no oxygen to stop any viruses or pathogens. You got the gluten in there, you're feeding pathogens, you're feeding things, that's what you're doing. You're drinking some kefir because you think that's the answer, and you're doing that. You're eating some eggs and you're actually feeding the viruses and the pathogens is what you're doing. And you're doing that, and at the same time you're weakening your immune system. You're lowering your immune system, and the diet's poor along the way. You're losing trace minerals like zinc because of stress and because of life. There's all kinds of environmental toxins coming in. You're getting broken down. You're getting toxic heavy metals. You might have already started out in this world with toxic heavy metals, and that's what's happening. And then boom, you end up getting mononucleosis, or your first bout of it that's not discovered. Stage 2 happens and you get your first mononucleosis, and it hasn't even been discovered because you're just tired for a week and then it goes away. Could be a real mild one or it could be a severe one. Either way, that's how the virus moves into stage 2. So I talked about the foods, I talked about how that works, I talked about how women are being disempowered because women on this planet are world changers. They're powerful world changers, and I just wanted to tell you that last part. But when you get run down and you get the flu and you're not eating good and you're getting deficient and you're not taking care of yourself, and all of these other things are happening because you're not being taught to take care of yourself, or you just got too much going on in your life, and then you get heartbreak or something else and you throw it all in, or just stress of every day, everything, the immune system starts to weaken and break down is what happens. And you end up going to the doctor with a diagnosis. It's not even the right one. It's not even, hey, you're viral now, we have to get some antivirals in you, we have to get you better. Instead, it's, wait a minute, you might have autoimmune and your body's attacking itself. And now you're driving home from the doctor's office thinking your body's worthless and it's faulty. So with all that else we have going on, this is how disempowerment for everybody goes. So the body's immune system is at war with Epstein-Barr in stage 2. I want to go into that a little bit. There's a stage 2 with Epstein-Barr. So first of all, stage 1 is about it incubating in the body. Stage 2 is about the war that occurs with Epstein-Barr. Talking about thyroid healing, the most comprehensive Epstein-Barr book on the planet. Make sure you get it. There's over 60 varieties of Epstein-Barr. Remember that. So everybody could have a different one. Some could be more severe, some could be much less severe. Another person's immune system might be stronger than another person's. They might have less toxins, they might have less issues going on in their life, so their mononucleosis is really mild. Somebody else's mononucleosis could be really severe. They got much more of a severe or aggressive form of Epstein-Barr, really important to know. But the body's at war with the Epstein-Barr. Stage 2 is when there's a war going on. So that's what's happening there. So that's what stage 2 is. Stage 2 is your immune system. So that's your white blood cells right here. So you got all these different white blood cells going on, you guys. So hang in there for this little show. You got lymphocytes, you got monocytes, you got neutrophils, you got you got the whole bit, okay? I'm trying to make it interesting anyway. Your immune, you get your killer cells, right? We just say that, your killer cells. So we have those. They're there, and they basically go into war with the bad guys is what happens. So here's your virus, the Epstein-Barr virus, that's stage 2. It comes out of incubation, and now boom, there's a war happening. But the virus over time realizes that it's going to lose the war because your immune system tags it. Your immune system releases a hormone, a chemical compound. Your immune system releases is what it does. So your white blood cells release this chemical compound. Chemical compound attaches itself to the virus is what it does. So the chemical compound released by your immune system, by your lymphocytes, okay, tag the virus. So then when they tags the virus knows it can't be in the body, in the bloodstream, fighting too much longer because that means you're going to win the battle. So there's this battle going on in stage 2 Epstein-Barr. It happens to everybody in anybody's life. It doesn't matter if they felt like they thought they just had the flu for 3 weeks or the flu for 2 weeks and it wasn't the flu, or it was a flu triggering off their Epstein-Barr, whatever it is. What happens is they have their white blood count. Their white blood count releases a chemical compound for the body. It goes right onto the virus, sticks to the virus, and now the virus's days are numbered, okay? You start winning the war. So that's how it works. You start winning the war. Your mono symptoms start to die down. You start getting your strength back, your sore throat, your fever, your headache, your rashes, whatever could be happening, whatever's going on could start to die down. And that's how it works, okay? Symptoms can come and go over time, but it starts to die down because your white count is winning. But then your virus has to go somewhere. So the Epstein virus actually has to go somewhere. So it picks a home is what it does. It heads somewhere. It heads for the liver is where it loves to go. It can head to the spleen too, but the liver is where it loves the most, and it's the most important spot because it has the most fuel, it has the most food. It has all that food I'm talking about stored up in it. It has that bacon fat in there. It has the gluten I talked about. It has the milk in there. It has toxins. It has toxic heavy metals. It has mercury in there to feed it. It's got aluminum. It's got cadmium, nickel, arsenic. It's got lead. It's got all these different copper. It's got metals in there. And so the virus likes to sit inside the liver, inside that garbage dump, and it goes to sleep. It feeds and then sleeps. It's like Thanksgiving, right? You're eating a big turkey, and then you hop on the couch, and now you're going to sleep. You know, and it just sits inside the liver, and it has that Thanksgiving meal, and then it goes to sleep. And then it has another Thanksgiving meal, and it goes to sleep. And then it starts to reproduce itself, is what it does. Because it still reproduces itself. It grows its numbers. It proliferates over time, causing problems. And unfortunately, that's where we go into and if you're not doing antivirals, and if you're not taking away the foods that it loves to feed on, and if you're not cleaning up your toxic heavy metals, it grows inside the liver and gets us in trouble, and that virus gets in trouble. And the immune system doesn't even know it's there anymore. The immune system's going around the body and doesn't see it in the bloodstream anymore and thinks it won the war. So your immune system kind of goes back into dormancy too. Not dormancy, back into the usual grind. The everyday grind of life is what it does. And this virus, Epstein-Barr virus, stays inside the liver and incubates in there. That's how it works, okay? Going into another part here, okay? We're going into stage 3 Epstein-Barr. So let's do that. Gonna have to, it's a lot of information. Gonna have to have some celery juice right there. Boot me back up. So stage 3, a lot of people experience mono, but don't get it diagnosed with mono. So they experience mono. So many people experience symptoms. They get run down in college for a little bit. They don't go to a doctor. They get run down. Not everybody goes to a doctor. Doctor doesn't even look for mono. So there's millions and millions and millions of people who had mono that didn't even know they had mono. But yet they have later on symptoms. They have stage 3 because they don't know they even had stage 1 because they were never even diagnosed. And even if they were diagnosed, there's no information out there but the medical meaning information that tells you how the stages work. So stage 3 is when the virus leaves the liver and heads to the thyroid. So it goes to the thyroid, and that's what happens. So the virus starts to go up to the thyroid. That's what it does. It goes up to the thyroid. So say this tortilla is your thyroid. The virus swims up to the thyroid. It enters the thyroid, and you start getting slowly start getting your thyroid conditions, and it could range in any of them. So you're 38 years old, you're a woman, you're 38 years old, you get discovered that there's a little nodule on your thyroid. That's because Epstein-Barr's been there for a long time working on it. That's how it works. I talk about this information all in thyroid healing. So maybe you're getting hypothyroidism. It's not going to show up on a blood test. It's not going to show up there because you've already had mono once before. So here you go. The virus can actually travel to the thyroid. It's not going to show up on a blood test. This is how it's escaped our medical system. This is how it's worked. Doctors will most likely see antibodies to a past infection. That's how indicating you had a past infection if they're really looking hard. But they won't believe your thyroid problems or know their thyroid problems. They believe it when they learn. So many doctors are learning this information now from Medical Medium book series. But they won't know that that's what's causing your thyroid problems, your hypothyroidism, your hyperthyroidism. These are different varieties of Epstein-Barr. You can have hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism all at the same time. You can actually have them both because you can have 2 varieties of Epstein-Barr inside your thyroid. That's how it works. This is where the mistake happens. Meanwhile, the virus becomes active again. It travels from the liver to the thyroid, causing problems, and it fills your thyroid with toxins and poisons, and it fills your liver with toxins and poisons. And your lymphatic system gets all clogged up with these toxic poisons. Your lymphocytes get weak. Your lymphocytes around your thyroid get weak, and they're not doing the job. They're not even able to actually knock down Epstein-Barr because we're still eating the wrong foods. We still have the toxic heavy metals. We're still not cleaning our system up. We're still not doing all the right things for ourselves. Medical research and science hasn't yet detected this information or detected the Epstein-Barr. Your thyroid has its own immune system. Research and science doesn't know that your thyroid has its own immune system. But what happens is, over time, the virus will distract and wear down your overall body's immune system. So I want to talk about this next part. You got to watch this whole thing over again. This information is really intense. Over time, the virus has in stage 4, it wants to go to stage 4, okay? That's what it wants to do. That's what viruses want to do. They always want to go to stage 4. And so this stage, what they do is the viruses leave the liver and they start to break down the immune system. They start to wear it down. They stay in the liver and wear down the immune system, the liver's immune system. They go out and they wear down the immune system. They release a tremendous amount of byproduct, toxic byproduct. So these viruses release toxic byproduct. And that toxic byproduct starts to break down the immune system throughout the entire body. And that's when people start getting some different symptoms. They start getting hot flashes and they start getting different heart palpitations because they got all this viral byproduct floating around through their body. And this is how they start getting brain fog. So what happens is you get the brain fog because you're on the edge of stage 3, stage 4, Epstein-Barr. Nobody knew. It's been traveling throughout the body over the years. It might have 1 or 2 varieties. Because the viruses are releasing a battery of poisons and toxins. So that's what the Epstein-Barr does. It releases a battery of poisons and toxins. And as these poisons and toxins are floating around, they weaken the immune system. The reason why is because they need to weaken the immune system because they want to get to that next level. They want to take your lymphocytes and distract them. That's what the viruses want to do. They want to distract your immune system so the thyroid becomes naked. So it's there for more viruses to feed into your thyroid, to go into your thyroid and feed on it. So there's an actual strategy viruses use. That may sound scary, but not if you have the right information, not if you know how to heal, not if you know how to heal like so many thousands and hundreds of thousands of people all over the planet that use them books and heal. You can actually arm yourself and actually heal. You can heal your hypothyroidism. You could reverse it. You could reverse all these different symptoms and conditions. All this stuff is really important. So stage 4 occurs when the body's immune system has been distracted, and then the virus deals with the nervous system. So that's when all the neurological symptoms start. The aches, the pains, the neurological fatigue, all the different symptoms people get neurologically, the anxiety. The anxiety is caused by toxins being released by the Epstein-Barr virus, floating around, getting into the brain, short-circuiting neurotransmitters, neurotransmitter chemicals, weaken, they start to dehydrate, electrical impulses start to short-circuit. That's what the virus does in stage 4. And so you start getting neurological symptoms. Your vagus nerve gets affected. I want to go into the vagus nerve for a couple of minutes, you guys. I know this is a lot of information. It probably surprised you today with this live, but it's so important. So vagus nerve, that's your nervous that runs, it comes out of the brain, it runs right down through your neck, it runs right down your chest, right down to your stomach right there. That's the ultimate anxiety creating nerve. It's not because you're faulty, it's not because you're mental, it's not because you got all these problems, not because you're a bad person, it's not because you're creating it with bad thoughts, it's not because of any of that. None of that helps if you got bad thoughts. Of course, none of that helps, but if you have a weakened vagus nerve that's already slightly inflamed from neurotoxins being produced in stage 4 by Epstein-Barr virus, you're going to have more of a sensitive vagus nerve. You're going to get tightness of chest. You're going to get panic attacks easy. You're going to get on and off in your life. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to feel all kind of like jittery. You're going to get shakes. You're going to get tingles and numbness. You're going to get different things. All of this is symptoms of Epstein-Barr, including you can have ringing in the ears on and off. And I know that a lot of you are like, wait, there's ringing in my ears. Someone's talking about me. No, it's not how it is. Ring in the ears, on and off intermittently, on and off, is an early sign that you got some EBV and you have to address it now, because 20 years from now, you won't be saying, hey, somebody's talking about me anymore. You'll be out of 10 doctors trying to get rid of your tinnitus. It's important to have this information. The one thing I don't play around with is fake information that's out there, that just travels around in all of the healing modalities and all the healing movements. That's all just, I don't even know where this stuff comes from. You have to deal with real information in order to heal and not get tricked and fooled. This is just the way it goes. Ringing in the ears, periodically, you got to know. You want to catch that early before it turns into an onslaught of tinnitus down the road. You got to know that. Tingles and numbness. Tingles and numbness is, sure, you know, when you're talking about ghost stories and it's at night and you're watching a late episode of a ghost story show or something like that, you might get the tingles up the back of the neck and the goosebumps and everything, but I'm talking about tingles and numbness that comes periodically for no reason whatsoever. You know, tonight, restless leg syndrome, tics, spasms, twitches, floaters in the eyes, buzzing in the ears, sounds in the ears, popping in the ears, heart palpitations, plantar fasciitis, brain fog, confusion, anxiety, depression, all start to occur with stage 4 Epstein-Barr. You can have stage 4 Epstein-Barr at age 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever, age 25, age 30, age 40, the whole bit. So you just need to know that. Neurofatigue, fatigue where your legs feel like cement. You know, it breaks my heart when I know people even go through any of this. It kills me. Because especially when they've gone to doctors and, you know, they're, playing around with diets and things are getting a little better here and there and whatnot, but they're not safe until they know what to do and heal. I've watched it for too many times. I talked to too many doctors. So the neurofatigue, the legs feel like bags of cement are on them, you know, or you just feel like you can't push through. You got to take naps during the day. You need a nap in the middle of the day. You got to lay down on the couch. You got to close your eyes. And that's really hard for so many people. And then you can't function, you can't work, or you're working, but you're not working at the pace, and you get the brain fog with it. All of it is so difficult. And they can't get out of bed. What about the people that can't get out of bed at all, you guys? And some of you probably know who that are, and some of you are them. And you can't even get out of the bed in the morning, and you have the deep neurological fatigue. That's medical medium information, neurological fatigue. That's the whole point. It's not just fatigue, it's neurological fatigue. It's your nervous system, and there's a way to heal. That's the stage 4 Epstein-Barr. Some people can have 3 Epstein-Barrs floating around their system, and it could be releasing these neurotoxins, and you can't even get out of bed. And then you're eating butter, and you're drinking coffee and having butter in your coffee, which will make you sicker. And then you're doing eggs because, you know, no one's taught you that eggs actually feed the viruses. Nobody tells you it is viruses. So this is how we get in trouble. And everybody is getting these symptoms decades before their grandmothers got the symptoms. They're getting it decades before, you know what I mean? Here's how it works. Look, what I mean by decades before their grandmothers, that means their grandmothers didn't get the symptoms in their life until later on in their life. The grandmothers got the symptoms later on in their life, most of them. And now, younger women are getting it at all ages. And when they have a window where they're not having it and they're able to go to school and they're able to go to college and they're able to graduate and they're able to start a career and they're able to go out to restaurants and drink wine and do whatever they want and go out with friends and all this other stuff and go travel around the world and all this, it's only a short window. It's only a short window. This is information that you should take to heart. It's only a short window unless you know what creates illness, what creates chronic symptoms and conditions, because it sneaks up on everybody no matter what. I'm watching it. I have watched it for over 35 years. Doctors watch it every day. No one's getting away with it unless you know what the heck is going on and know how to heal it, know what you need to do, know how to heal it, get the thyroid information, know what foods to stop, know what all of it, and other stuff too. Listen, it's getting worse than it ever was before, and faster. It's getting worse and faster. EBV is more aggressive than ever was before, and people are collecting them like collecting stamps and collecting coins. Look, I get it if you're a critic or a skeptic and you don't understand how Epstein-Barr works, and you don't understand how it's to blame for a huge part of our population's illness. I get it. You're going to be like, hey, no way. This doesn't make sense. I get it. But it's actually the way it is. This live is critical for you to know if you're a skeptic. Watch this live a couple of times. Be open-minded. Be open-minded for the people that need the help. It's really important. Epstein-Barr is a blame for our population sickness, a huge part. Don't get me wrong. I talk about other viruses, and I'm going to go into that a little bit. Regardless of any way the Epstein-Barr has entered your body through areas of the body, fluids, or any other way, it runs these 4 stages, and you can stop it, and you can heal, and you can move forward. That's why people heal from their Lyme disease on medical medium information, multiple sclerosis on their medical medium information, all these different symptoms and conditions on it. That's why they get their lives back. That's why they lose weight. There's stories everywhere. Women's World magazine, that publication showcases it has a spread in the magazine every month, every other month. Medical meeting people actually healing from all the stuff they did. They were never paid to do it. They did it on their own. They did it with the books. They did it with the information. First for Women always also talk about that. So there's different publications that know the information's healing people. They see it. They see these miraculous stories. You guys see it every day. So let's talk about some different things. Epstein-Barr is different because it runs through different parts of the body. EBV goes through all kinds of different parts of the body, causes different problems I've explained. So Epstein-Barr can go to the thyroid. It can go to other areas. It goes to the liver. It goes to the reproductive system. It can go to the brain. It can do a lot of different things. Neurotoxins can float around and go to the brain. So let's talk about why women for a couple of minutes. Why women in such greater numbers are getting affected with chronic illness and getting Epstein-Barr to such a degree. One of the biggest physical differences is the menstrual cycle. When a woman has her menstrual cycle, 80% of her immune system gets knocked down. Okay? So when 80% of her immune system gets knocked down once a month, it leaves everything open for a virus, a pathogen, or anything else. So say a woman has 2 varieties of Streptococcus and they got acne all the time, or they had strep throat in their life, and they have acne, okay? Or they had ear infections when they were younger. When they have their menstrual cycles, when they're getting older, their immune system drops down. 80% of the immune system drops down because each month, the reproductive system in a woman demands a tremendous amount of energy and resources. It demands full attention for resources is what it does. The reproductive system needs almost its entire immune system governing over it so that she could prepare her body to having a baby. So what happens is that when you have your reproductive system coming on, it's the body preparing itself to have babies. The menstrual cycle is critical. So what happens here is 80% of the immune system drops down and goes to the reproductive system is where it goes. And it goes towards the womb. It's critical that it goes towards the womb. And there's a reason for this, because it's preparing, it's guarding and preparing, cleaning and prepping the reproductive system to pass on generations and generations and generations, to start generations. It's our way to survive and live. So the immune system drops down. So that means once a month, just with that alone, a woman's immune system drops down and weakens. So if there's an Epstein-Barr just caught recently, through a relationship or through a friendship or through anything or through any kind, or in a restaurant, all the different things, or a public bathroom or a family member, and Epstein-Barr is passed on to one person to another, and that menstrual cycle is happening, and then also stress is happening in that person's life, in that woman's life, and stress and different things or hardships or whatever it is, the immune system can get kicked down a lot throughout the body, and the virus can actually proliferate because of that reason alone. And then there's ovulation, where 40% of the body's immune system has to go to the reproductive system during ovulation. Once again, preparing the woman for conception and the whole bit. This means twice a month, a woman's immune system is weakened down when a man's immune system is not. That's why men don't get chronic illness to the degree women do. Okay, so that's one of the big reasons. It's also why women get acne during the menstrual cycle, because since their immune system lowers, acne occurs because acne is caused by Streptococcus, not hormones. See, hormones was the old blame game. It started out with hormones, then it started out with the body's attacking itself. Now it's going into genes. These are all blame games on women and their bodies, trying to train them that their bodies are faulty, that their bodies are weak, or they created. And that's what it's all to sell hormones. It's all to sell different drugs. It's all to sell things. And that's why that whole system was created back in the day. But what causes acne during menstruation, during a cycle, what causes acne is Streptococcus. So that's what causes it. Strep bacteria, Streptococcus is a cofactor to Epstein-Barr. That means if strep's around, Epstein-Barr lives in the body too. Always remember that. So if you have strep as a child, that means there's an Epstein-Barr in the child too. That's how it works. There's over 50 groups of strep with multiple strains per group, and science research is unaware of this. There's way more letters in a group than the alphabet has for Streptococcus. That's how many varieties of Streptococcus. And Streptococcus is becoming super bug now. It's becoming antibiotic resistant. That's why everybody gets the acne. That's why there's so many problems. That's why people get ear infections. That's why kids get ear infections. And you're doing the antibiotics, and it can't get rid of the ear infection. It keeps on coming back. That's why UTIs, urinary tract infections, bladder infections, bacterial vaginosis, all of these things are Streptococcus related. The reason why they don't get better with antibiotics, or they get temporarily and it's on and off because it gets more resistant. And there's ways of healing this. And I talk about all the different conditions and chronic symptoms and conditions in the book. You should get the Thyroid Healing book. Men suffer from prostate cancers and prostate problems because of Epstein-Barr virus and Streptococcus, something to know about. Epstein-Barr creates prostate cancer in men, so all of that. Breast cancer, Epstein-Barr causes breast cancer. Miscarriages, infertility, preeclampsia caused by Epstein-Barr virus, so miscarriages. Not all miscarriages. Just don't get me wrong on that. A lot of miscarriages are caused by reproductive issues created by Epstein-Barr virus. A lot of infertility issues. Not all infertility, but a lot of infertility. Mysterious miscarriages, mysterious infertility. Much of those are caused by Epstein-Barr virus, so it's something to know. Preeclampsia, that's symptoms of Epstein-Barr virus, because the immune system drops when a woman's pregnant. And so because it drops, if you have a certain variety of Epstein-Barr, you can get all the signs of preeclampsia. And so that's really important to know. So let's go a little bit further here. I have a whole section in Thyroid Healing on these topics, really important. Remember, there's over 60 varieties of Epstein-Barr, not just one. 60 varieties of pathogens is what it means, not just one type of virus. If you're a critic skeptic, watch this whole thing all over again. If you haven't seen it from the beginning, make your own judgment call. I'm totally fine with that. Critics are smart. They're smart, they know what they're saying, you know? Haters are different, but critics are smart. Intelligent people that want to learn and know, and they want to have an open mind. So make sure you look at this, look at the book. If I was a critic, get the book and read it. If you don't want to pay for it, go to the library, get it out for free. Blaming our bodies on being autoimmune and our body attacking itself, blaming our genes, blaming the fact that we think we created it because of some emotional thing that's deep down inside is a really dangerous situation, especially for young people. It's bad enough for older people, like in their 50s and 60s and 40s. Telling them that they can handle it a little better, but telling people that are 15, 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old that their body's attacking itself when it's not, when it's an outdated theory, is really devastating, beyond devastating. Telling a 15-year-old that it's their genes is devastating when it's not their genes. It's devastating. I mean, don't you think so? Or do I live in a bubble? It's just unbelievable. It's the greatest body shaming techniques I've ever seen created by Big Pharma, and it's right under everybody's noses, and I'm the only person talking about it, literally the only person talking about it, and that breaks my heart alone, because it's just, that's how literally fooled people are. You want to body shame somebody? Tell them that their body's immune system is destroying their own glands when it's not. When it's not. The body doesn't work like that. When it's a theory that was created because they didn't know what causes illness. When autoimmune disease, they don't know the causes of it. So just remember that. Or it's attacking the skin like eczema, psoriasis. So that, when you do that, you're really hurting people, kicking them down, body shaming them, disempowering them, and that's what they do that so that the industries bank on women's suffering and keep them down because they're world changers. Never forget that, because that's what they're doing. So don't get fooled, don't get pushed into it. It's so critical. Somebody just said I was one of the 14-year-olds when psoriasis and depression started and skin disease, and they said it was her genes. I just saw that comment come up right now. Yeah, you and so many more, and it's painstaking. Thank you for writing that comment. Thank you. Somebody said, I hope Anthony is protecting himself. I worry about Big Pharma. You guys, I get more stuff thrown at me than you guys ever even knew or could know, and man, it's not easy. But I kill myself to get the information out there and get the books out there, and I don't do what the other authors do, where they try to sell hundreds of millions of dollars of items out there in the world so they could just make money, and the book is just a way of doing it. I don't do that. I write the books, Spirit's Information, Spirit of Compassion, my source. I get it to you so you can heal. It's all about you healing. Unforgiving 4. Listen, I want to talk about the Unforgiving 4 for a minute. Unforgiving 4 is pathogens, like we covered a little bit. Heavy metals, it's another thing. Radiation, we always get exposure, and old DDT. That's all in our system everywhere, in everybody's body, even younger people. I also include all that information about the Unforgiving 4 and thyroid healing. Just know that. Pathogens, including Epstein-Barr, over 30 varieties of shingles, something to know about too. Cytomegalovirus, HHV6, HHV7, HHV12, 13, 14, 15. Strep bacteria in over 50 groups, cover it all in here. How strep is becoming a superbug, how it's all undiscovered, it's all undiscovered information, all incredible to have. Strep bacteria information is important. So all of that. I'm looking at the comments now. I didn't get a chance to do that before. It's incredible. You guys are writing so many awesome comments right now. I'm actually reading them. I was reading them in and out of it before, but I couldn't read them all. So I hope you forgive me for that. I feel bad about that. This book is the most complete and comprehensive guide there is about Epstein-Barr virus, period. It also includes the 7 great mistakes, including the autoimmune theory, the gene theory. It includes all the mistakes. These are critical so you can not get pushed around anymore. So you don't get pushed around, No one wants to be fooled, and no one wants to be pushed around. No one wants to be left in the dark. No one wants to be, a joke to be played on them, because that's what the industries do. I promise you that. And they do it on the alternative industry. And you know what's sad, you guys? The alternative industry is doing it. There's a lot of traps in the alternative industry too. I am not totally pro alternative industry, and I'm not totally pro conventional industry. I know the good parts of our conventional industry. I know the good parts of it. I know good surgeons, I know all of this, and I know also the bad parts. And I know the good parts of the alternative movement, and I know the really bad parts, and there are a lot of bad parts. So just know that. I covered almost 100 different symptoms and conditions in Thyroid Healing book, includes 90-day thyroid rehab cleanse. Just know that's in here. I got a list of supplements that you can, you can learn about so you can heal. I don't sell supplements, but you can learn how to get supplements, the right ones that heal all that stuff out there. I have an entire chapter on insomnia. So many people suffer with sleeping problems too, due to Epstein-Barr and other things. And incredible, this book can help you improve your sleep. This book is critical for anybody on the planet right now. Just know this. We're up against Epstein-Barr virus. It's over 60 varieties. If you have the book already, read it. and study it, okay? That's what I would do. Listen, I want to talk to you guys heart to heart for a second, okay? I know so many of you suffer and struggle and have been through a lot. And when you're not sick and you've never been sick yet, that person can never understand that. And I get it. It's the hard part about it all. When you're the one and it's in your shoes, and you got the plantar fasciitis, and you got the aches and pains, and your feet hurt, and your knees hurt, and you don't know why, and you got the fatigue, and you got the thyroid diagnosis, and you got all the different brain fog and confusion, brain fog, you got tics and spasms, whatever it is, a burning pain, or you got all these different issues going on, and you're the one struggling, and you're the one going to doctors, and your life becomes about going to different doctors and healers. And just know that my heart is with you, and I believe in you. And I'm sorry you have the misinformation that floats around out there in the world. And I'm sorry that it's still out there, and it's just hurting everybody like it is. And some of it is helpful, but the majority of it still doesn't get people to where they need to be. And I know that you've struggled and you've suffered and you've been through hell and back. Even if it's on a small level to a big level, just know that I'm right there with you and I understand. And with the skin conditions, when you can't even put clothes on, you can't even wear clothes, and you can't even get out of bed, or you can't even lay in bed because of a skin condition that's so bad. And babies that have the worst eczema and psoriasis. And you're a mom and you're seeing your children suffer, and you're a mom and you're seeing your daughter suffer at age 13 or age 14 with really bad fatigue and really bad issues. And you're just like, what's going on here? And you quickly learn that science and research knows nothing about chronic illness. Science and research knows literally nothing about chronic illness or the cause of chronic illness and how hard that is. And when you think about that, I understand. And I understand you, and I understand what you've been through, and I believe in you, and I believe in you 100%. And I realize when people aren't sick, and those are the critics, and they don't really, they're out there and they're driving around and they're not sick yet, and they're exercising and doing their thing, and they don't know what it's like to be in your shoes, and they can't understand you. I understand that too. And, but just know this, that you can heal. And I believe in you. I love you guys, okay? And you got my heart, you got my soul. Thanks for caring about me like you guys do. So many of you have put heartfelt comments in there. And take care. God bless you.